QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Tax line mapping format trial balance in Excel. Let's get into it with Intuit's QuickBooks Pro Desktop 2021. Here we are in our test tax mapping file within QuickBooks. We have the trial balance open. Last time or in prior presentations, we exported the trial balance both to the tax software, Lacert, tax software that's owned by Intuit to help and speed up the data entry process, as well as to Excel, so that we can then see what we have on the tax return after we have exported it and do a reconciliation from it to what's in the books. So we have that reconciliation process. So within the tax software, we actually generated our tax return from this, or thus far, we've entered data input for it. The bottom line being the 116,582. What's currently on the books in terms of the profit and loss is going to be the 100 at this point in time. We want to see what the reconciling adjustment will be. I'm going to do that with an Excel worksheet. So I've exported the Excel worksheet. Now I'm going to format the Excel worksheet. Note that sometimes people will actually just do the data input into a worksheet they had it in the past. So if you had a worksheet from the prior year, you might try to just data input into the prior year worksheet to the accounts. However, if you have any new accounts and whatnot, then you're going to have to add the new accounts in one time and do that. Sometimes it's easier just to rebuild, the worksheet that you have, or you can have a template and just copy and paste in, the new accounts to the worksheet or something. So I'm going to just build it out. So this is how you'd build it out. I'm going to hold down Control. I'm going to make this a little bit larger. This will be more of an Excel type of thing. I'm going to do this fairly quick because I know this isn't an Excel course, but just to get an idea how you can build this thing out. So when this is going to be exported, note that there's kind of some different formatting that's going to be on these cells. Like this is 8 in terms of the size, whereas this is 8, and over here it would be 11, and the font's different. So what I'll do usually is I'll take the font outside. I'll take the default Excel font and then paste it to the whole thing by going to the Home tab and then the clipboard. Use the Format Painter of this cell, and then I'm going to paintbrush the entire workbook to the same format. So now it's all got the same formatting. All this formatting has gone away up top and whatnot. I'm going to go then to this tab again. I'm going to make this bold. So there we have that. These two headings up top, don't need those. So I'm going to select column or row 1 and 2, right click on those rows and delete them. And then the total row down here, don't need that. Going to select the total row, right click on it and delete that. Then I'm going to take this whole column A, don't need it. Just going to right click on that column, delete it. Then I would like to pull this into one column, credits being represented with negative numbers. So what I'd like to do is flip all these numbers on the credit side to negative numbers. I will typically copy the entire column, right click and copy it. I'm going to paste it out here, but I'm going to paste it special with negative numbers. I'm going to right click and say I want to paste it, but I want it to be a special pasting. So I'm going to say special. And then we want to say it's going to be super special. So we'll be down here in the special items down here. And then I want to see that we want subtract. So I'm going to say subtract. That's the key. That's the key. So I'm going to say okay. And now they're all negative there. So now I can copy that. I'm just going to copy that and put them here as the negative numbers. And I'll just paste them. And so that looks good. And then I don't need this column anymore because I think we're okay here. So I'm going to right click on this column and delete it. And now if I was to highlight these two columns, it should add up to 0 because the debits equal the credits. So debits minus the credits are 0. I'm then going to format the entire worksheet to make these bracketed numbers and maybe red. So I'm going to select the triangle to take the whole worksheet, right click on the worksheet. I'm going to format the worksheet, and then I'll typically make it currency and then no $sign. And I'll keep the decimals just in case we have some, and I'll make the bracketed numbers, negative bracketed numbers and red, and okay. And then I'm just going to move these into the same column to the right. So you could do that by just grabbing it and moving them over like this. I can highlight them and then grab like anywhere on the side. So your cursor looks like that, and then just move them. Or cutting and pasting is actually easier. So cutting and paste is the same thing, even though it looks kind of different. I'll just cut it and paste it and paste. So, hold on. I cut. I think I cut it twice. I cut two things and I didn't paste. So I cut and paste, or you can go Control X, which is cut, and Control V is paste. I'm going to widen this column so I can see it. So then we'll do that one more time. Highlight these, Control X, cut, Control V, paste. And then if I was to add this up, equals the sum of these items. It should then add up to 0, unless we messed up. Unless I messed up, which I didn't. Totally didn't mess up. So this is total debits and credits. So there we have that. I can underline here, or we could, put a box around this. But that's gonna be basically our starting point. So then I'm gonna remove column C. I don't need the skinny column here. That's too skinny. I'm just gonna delete it. So delete that, and then we can have some headers up top. So I'm gonna add some headers. Gonna select this one and this one. Right click, and so I'm gonna say insert, and then I'm gonna call this the adjusted trial balance, assuming that this balance has been adjusted already in QuickBooks. I don't need to do any adjustments outside. I'm just going to be reconciling to the tax books now. So it's kind of like an adjusting entry worksheet, but just for the tax adjustments. So then I'm going to center this and say, okay, that looks good. And then these are going to be the tax adjustments. I'll say that and center that. And then this is going to be the tax trial balance. So tax trial balance. If I misspell anything, then, that's quite possible I'll do that. And so then I'm going to highlight that, and then we're going to say these are black. I'll make them black and white. So that kind of stands out as the header. I'll make this one black and white as well. So that stands out as the header. So that looks pretty good. And then I'm just going to sum up these columns. So any adjustments will go here, and then I'm just going to sum it up over here, equals the sum of these two columns. So that means if I have a credit here, it'll decrease, and if I have a debit, it'll increase. So that's how that'll work. And then I'll just copy this down with the good old autofill. Auto drives it down. Dr. Phil does the calculations like that. And then I'll copy this one across. We'll copy this one across with the autofill as well. And then this middle column, I'll typically make it a different color. I use this light blue because that's what I've watched the Excel guy on YouTube, and he used to make them blue. And he was really good. So I would do that. So I'm going to right click on this. Excel is fun guy. The Excel is fun guy. So I'm going to hit, but that blue isn't here. So I'm going to go to the more colors option. And then I'm going to go to standard, and I want this blue right there. And so that's the one I want. That's the one, because that's the one I learned to work with. Then I'm going to put brackets around this entire thing. So we'll take this entire thing, and we'll put some brackets around it. Go into the Home tab, Font Group, and we'll put some brackets around the entire thing, like so. And so that's going to be basically where our adjustments can go. Then I want a column for our adjusting entries. So I'm going to highlight, I'm going to make some room to the left by, I need like 4 columns, maybe 5. I'll go. And then I'm going to select like 5 of these, right click and insert. Now, if there's any formatting there, I would clear it, but there is no formatting because it came from the left side. And then I'm going to call these the adjusting entries. So I'm basically going to have a description here, and then I'm going to call this the debit and credit of them, and then we'll have our accounts will be here, debits and credits. And then I have one too many columns. I didn't think I needed that many, but I just wanted 5 just in case. I'll delete that column, and I'll make this one a little smaller. We'll make this one black and white again. So let's make it black and white so it stands out, and then we'll boldify it. Somehow these didn't get boldified, so I'm going to select the whole thing and boldify the whole thing again. And then these two will center, home, alignment, center, and then I'll make this blue because this is where the data is going to be input again. So I'll select this whole thing about down to the same range, down to the bottom of our worksheet, and say that should be enough columns there. So I'll make that blue, put some brackets around it. So there we have that. Now if these items turn anything other than blue, if they turn anything other than 0, we have a problem. So what I'm going to do is put a conditional formatting down here, and so it'll turn red if this goes any farther than 0 or less over, let's make a range. If it goes over 1, it'll turn red. If it goes less than -1, it'll turn red. So I'm going to do this conditional formatting in the home page, and I want to say, okay, if this gets greater than like 1, then I want you to turn it red because something went wrong. So I'm going to say, okay. So like if this changed to 2, then it turns red, which is pretty neat. I was like impressed when I first learned that. But in any case, home tab, let's do it again and say another one. If this one goes less than -1, also make it red. So, okay. So if I say this turns to -2, turns red, and red means there's a problem. So I'm going to undo that, and then I want to make it green if it's in the range. So I'm going to go home tab conditional, say if it's like between -1 and 1, we want to make it green. So do the green fill like that, and okay. And so then we have the green fill. So there we have that. And then I'll calculate the net income down below, net income. And I usually like to mark off the middle point of this trial balance. This is something you can't really do in like the Lacerte. If you try to do these reconciliations in Lacerte, you can't format it like that. You can't make the nice blue areas and the the red bracketed negative numbers and whatnot. So that's why I think it's easier in Excel if you get proficient in Excel. But you got to do whatever the company you're working at is doing. So you got to use whatever system you're using there. That's used by the firm, but get used to whatever's being done. But I like to make the middle one blue here, because that tells me that everything below that is part of the income statement. So all this is part of the income statement. So net income will simply be calculated by highlighting those, because the credits minus the debits will be net income. So I'm just going to say add those up, please. And this and so I'm just going to add up these items, the income statement items. And so we have, and that credit, that represents a credit, which is actually net income. If it was a debit, it would be a loss. That can be kind of confusing if you're not used to the debit and credit thing represented in positive and negative numbers, but it is what it is. So then I'm going to copy that across, and there we have it. So then maybe these two I make black and white again to show that these are kind of like the header type of stuff. And there we have that. So now we want to make our adjustments to this column, and then that'll show our reconciliation between what's on the books, the 100,000, to what's on the tax, which is currently at the 116,582. And you can see we basically made a worksheet pretty quickly that looks something like this. So we're gonna put our adjusting entries in place. We'll put our adjusting entries into the middle column, and we'll show the detail on the right side.